on Madden 20. As you see, we are 8-0 in the standings at Week 10. We got a road game against, of course, New England. How about that? But for this short update, I'm going to get you to the standings. I'm going to get you to the remainder of the schedule, get you to the stats, possibly maybe show you a little bit of maybe some injuries. There is probably not a lot of injuries through Week 10, which I'm kind of surprised about lately. But with that being said, let's take a look at the standings right now. There is only 3 teams remaining that are standing at 8-0. And if you look at this, the Cowboys are ranked number 1 at 8-0. We are ranked number 2 at 8-0. And how about them? How about the Bears? The Bears are just completely awesome so far in year 2 of the Buffalo Bills franchise. But if you take a look at the normal standings, Cleveland at 5-3, Baltimore tied for first at 5-3, the Bengals are tied for first as well at 5-3, and the Steelers are at 2-6, below 500 for the second straight year in a row. In the AFC South, it goes like this: the Colts at 7-2, the Texans at 500, the Jags are at 3-5, the Titans are at 3-5 as well. In the AFC East, it goes like this: the Buffalo Bills at 8-0, the Patriots at 5-3, the Jets. How about the Jets? The Jets Jets at 500, and of course the Dolphins are at 3-6. In the AFC West, it goes like this: Kansas City is at 6-2, the Broncos are at 4-5, the Chargers are at 3-5, and the Raiders are at 3-6. In the NFC North, it goes like this: the Bears at 8-0, the Lions at 6-2, the Packers at 3-5, and the Vikings at 3-5. In the NFC South, it is a two-way tie for first right now, with the Panthers at 4-4, Tampa Bay at 4-4, the Saints at 2-5-1, the Falcons at 1-6-1. In the NFC East, it goes the Cowboys at 8-0, the Redskins at 5-3, the Giants at 2-6, and the Philadelphia Eagles rounding out the bottom of the barrel in the NFC East at 1-7. In the NFC West, it goes like this: Seattle right now leads the way at 5-3. 49ers are at 3-5. The Cardinals are at 3-5, and the Rams unfortunately are at 1-7. And I think this is their second year at a terrible record. And we face them, and I will get you to the schedule. Sean McVay is no longer the head coach for the Rams, if anybody asks. In the AFC West, it's the same way for John Gruden. He is no longer the head coach for the Oakland Raiders. So for that being said, those two guys are pretty much gone for their teams. If we take a look at the remainder of the team's schedule, it goes like this: we beat Cleveland on opening day 35-10. On the road against the Arizona Cardinals 35-7. Versus the Chargers 35-10. The Patriots 35-17. The Dolphins was just a blowout 49-3. We beat the Rams 36-24. Had our bye week at week 7. Blew out the Raiders at 41-3. Faced the Chiefs on week 9. Beat them by 3 scores, 35-14. The next 4 games are on the road: at New England on Sunday night, home at Miami for against the Dolphins, Thursday night game against the Jets, Monday night game against the Broncos, then back home against the Seattle Seahawks on a Sunday night, Sunday afternoon against the Jets, Sunday night against the Colts in Indianapolis, and then week 17 Sunday night against my co-worker's favorite team versus my favorite team, the 49ers, which should be maybe a good game. with that being said, that is the remainder of the Bills' schedule. Taking a look at stats, we are going to take a look at player stats. Jim Kelly comes with over 1,000 yards passing, 23 and 4 is his touchdown ratio. Not bad at all. He's been sacked 14 times. We're going to take a look at also the Broncos. Now, as you see, John Elway is on here. I did update you guys once before that I made Hall of Fame legend quarterbacks, running backs, etc. John Elway is a little over 2,000 yards for 12 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in his sophomore campaign. He has a 66% completion percentage, which is not bad at all. The Browns, now don't ask me this, guys. This is just a little experiment here. But Michael Vick is a little over 2,000 yards for 17 touchdowns and 5 interceptions at 68% of his pass completions. Tampa Bay, Jameis Winston, same usual, 14 for 2, but that is terrible. Kurt Warner, a little over 1,000 yards, heading close to 2,000 yards. In his sophomore campaign, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 69% for his pass completions. Now, Patrick Mahomes, almost getting to 2,000 yards as well, and he is at 20 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he's at 72% of his completion attempts. Now, here is the thing that I don't think you guys know yet. Jalen Hurts, without Andrew Luck being on Madden anymore, I decided to do a little experiment, and I put a Jalen Hurts on the Colts. The Colts this year doing wonderful with him. Little over 2,000 yards, 25 touchdown passes, and only 6 interceptions in his sophomore campaign. That is amazing. With that being said, on to the Cowboys. Troy Aikman doing decently well himself. Little over 2,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in his sophomore campaign. The Dolphins, Dan Marino, having a very, very okay, decent season. I can't really say anything about him. He doesn't have really weapons on this team, but he's at a little over 2,000 yards, but he has 16 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's doing a little bit better in his touchdown interception ratio, unlike last year, where last year he was but this year, he's doing a whole lot better. As we move on with the 49ers, Steve Young, Josh Austin, if you're hearing this or you're seeing this, Steve Young, a little over 2,000 yards, 15 interceptions, 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Excuse me, I said that wrong. But with that being said, Steve Young, a Hall of Fame quarterback, like I said, to keep you guys going on this, get this mentally in you guys' head. I did get this. I saw this on a guy's other YouTube channel, and I took the idea myself to see how well this would play out with Hall of Fame players. So with that being said, Steve Young's sophomore season is not doing too shabby either. With the Giants, Dak Prescott, 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, not even close to he's a little over 1,800 yards, not bad. Jimmy G, who got traded to the 49ers when I created Steve Young. Jimmy G, a little over 1,800 yards himself, 10 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. For that being said, we are going to move on to the Redskins. Tua is, I know he'll probably be most likely the quarterback for the Dolphins in next year. But with that being said, you don't know about Dwayne Haskins, so I did put Tua as the quarterback for the Redskins. So with Tua is over 1,600 yards for 11 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Not too shabby for a sophomore campaign. With that being said, Drew Brees retired, so it's not really a big deal. Big Ben Roethlisberger retired, so it's not a big deal there either. So we're going to go on to the Vikings. Brett Favre having an amazing sophomore season so far. Over 2,000 yards, 2,335 yards to be exact. 16 touchdowns, 8 interceptions for his sophomore campaign. With that being said, we are going to take a look at another veteran player, and that is Tom Brady. Tom Brady, a little over, but he's at 2,104 yards, 19 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions in his 20th year in the season on year 2 of Madden 20 with the Bills franchise. With that being said, we are going to take a look at other stats and other players that I created. We're going to go back to the Buffalo Bills. In rushing, Thurman Thomas leads the way at 869 yards and 11 touchdowns. Melvin Gordon III at 459 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jim Kelly is almost at 100 yards with 1 touchdown. Not too bad at all. With that being said, the Broncos, Philip Lindsay is a little over 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. Royce Freeman at 300 yards and 7 touchdowns. John Elway doesn't really run the ball that much, but he's at 66 yards for right now and 2 touchdowns. The Browns, Nick Chubb not doing too shabby, 588 yards for 2 touchdowns himself. Michael Vick, 17 rushes for 87 yards for 0 touchdowns, which I'm kind of surprised that is unusual. With that being said, Emmitt Smith leading the way in rushing for Arizona, 124 rushes for 710 yards and 4 touchdowns. Looking at David Johnson, he has 66 carries for 259 yards and 2 of those things. And Kurt Warner doesn't, like I said, not a runner. Even in real life, not a runner. Kurt Warner at 11 attempts for 79 yards with no touchdowns. The Chargers, LaDainian Tomlinson leads the way for 737 yards and 5 of them things. Kareem Hunt at 285 yards for 4 touchies. On the way to the Chiefs, leading the way is Damian Williams at 506 yards for 2 touchies. Patrick Mahomes almost at 100 yards, 91 yards for 3 of them things. The Colts looking like this: Maryland Mack at 594 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts only at 66 yards, which is really surprising. The Cowboys, Ezekiel Elliott, and I believe probably Zeke is the one that's probably leading the way in rushing right now. Zeke at 865 yards and 10 touchdowns. Troy Aikman has 91 yards and 2 touchdowns as well. In the Dolphins, Keaton Drake leads the way at 510 yards and 4 touchdowns. I do not know how to say this guy's name, but he is at 226 yards and 4 touchies. Dan Marino at 65 yards plus a touchy. So we move on to the 49ers. It goes like this: Matt Breida has 538 yards and 8 touchies. Tevin Coleman has 139 yards and 3 touchies. Steve Young is 107 yards, no touchies yet. With that being said, we are going to move on to, I think that's it for the rushing. I'm not going to go through every team. We're going to take now a look at receiving. With that being said, Andre Reed, 812 yards and 16 touchdowns. Lee Evans, 359 yards and 6 touchdowns. Tyler Kroft has 169 without a touchdown. Cole Beasley, 137 without a touchdown. Melvin Gordon at 39 yards plus a touchy. Thurman Thomas at 36 yards without a touchy. Steve Tasker, I know he was a wide receiver, but I needed him as a tight end. Lied about his height, lied about his weight. So don't worry about that, guys. He's at 24 yards without a touchy right now. John Brown at 18 yards. And like I said, I've been moving a lot of guys around. And I brought Charles Clay back from free agency. So that was a huge pickup as well. In the Broncos category, Emmanuel Sanders leads the way at 797 yards. Cortland Sutton leads the second guy at 499 yards with 4 touches for Sanders, 3 touches for Sutton. The Browns, OBJ leads the way right now for 489 yards plus 4 touches. Callaway, 479 yards plus 4 touches. Jarvis Landry, also 436 yards plus 2 touches. David Njoku, 268 yards plus 3 touches. Nick Chubb, 145 yards plus a touchy. With that being said, Arizona, it goes like this. Christian Kirk, 601 yards plus 7 touchdowns. Randall Cobb, 342 yards plus 5 touchdowns. Emmitt Smith, it puts him at 200 yards plus 2 touches. Looking like this in the Chargers. Keenan Allen, of course, leads the way in LA. With that being said, Keenan Allen's receiving yards through week 10, it goes like this: 546 yards for him with 8 touchdowns. With that, I just made a mistake, clicked on the wrong key. With that being said, next guy, Travis Benjamin, 452 yards plus 7 touchdowns. LaDainian Tomlinson only has 413 yards without any touchdowns. And Hunter Henry, 285 yards and 3 of those things. The Chiefs now looking like this: Travis Kelce at 482 yards plus 4 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, 464 yards plus 6 touchdowns. Mecole Hardman, 441 yards and 5 touchdowns. And Sammy Watkins has 348 yards and 5 touches. The Colts, T.Y. Hilton, of course, leads the way there with 701 yards and 8 touchdowns. Seth Roberts at 495 yards with 3 touchdowns. Eric Ebron is at 493 yards with 4 touchdowns. Tajay Sharp is at 480 yards with 4 touchdowns. And Maryland Mack rounds out the top 5, I believe, at 288 yards plus 2 touches. The Cowboys, Amari Cooper leads it for right now through week 10 at 565 yards with 4 of those things. Michael Irvin, 429 yards and 4 touches. The rest of them are below the tops. The tight end, Seth DeValve, I do not know how to say that name. He is a Princeton guy, and he is at 387 yards plus 2 touches. The Dolphins looking like this: Albert Wilson, for some reason, doing really well. 686 yards for 8 touchdowns. Mike Gesicki, I do not know, 508 yards for 5 touchdowns. Devontae Parker at 483 yards plus 5 touchdowns as well for him. The 49ers, it goes like this: Cherry Rice this time at 644 yards plus 3 of those things. George Kittle at 433 yards plus 1 touchdown. Dante Pitts at 349 yards and 3 touchdowns. Marquise Goodwin is at 238 yards right now and no touchdowns. With that being said, we are going to go to the Vikings and see how well Brett Favre is throwing to his players. Kyle Rudolph leads the way at 514 yards plus 6 touchdowns. Josh Reynolds leads the way and with the wide receivers at 425 yards plus 3 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs is at 413 yards and 1 touchdown. And Adam Thielen's at 400 yards as well, and has 2 touchdowns through week 10. Dalvin Cook, 403 yards himself plus a touchy. With that being said, I'm not really going to look at defense that much. I'm just going to let you guys look at it. With that being said, defense for the Buffalo Bills, Cornelius Bennett in a sophomore campaign, all over the field right now at 29 total tackles. Traymon Edmonds, same thing. And myself, as usual, all over the field in my sophomore campaign. Terrence McGee, all over the field as well, with 4 interceptions right now, which is really, really surprising. And my cousin at 15 solo tackles. Michael Hyde at 12. Tre'Davious White at 13. Ed Oliver is at 13 himself. Bruce Smith in his sophomore campaign has 3.5 sacks right now. 3.5. Jared Hughes is at 5.5, which is better than last year, I believe. So with that being said, the Bills defense is doing very, very well. Broncos, I don't really pay attention to. Von Miller at 7 sacks right now, not too shabby. Champ Bailey at 37 sacks, 37 sacks, sorry about that. 37 solo tackles, 1 sack, not bad. He does not have any interceptions right now. With that being said, how about this? I did make a player for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that is Simeon Rice. And Simeon Rice is at 9.5 sacks with 24 solo tackles. The Cardinals, I do not pay attention to. Patrick Peterson in his 9th year, not bad with 3 interceptions, not bad at all. With that being said, the Cowboys, we are going to take a look at this. Leighton Vander Esch, not doing bad himself. Jalen Smith, not doing bad himself. How about Deion Sanders? Deion Sanders in his sophomore campaign, not doing too shabby either. With that being said, we are going to take a look at the Ravens, and Ray Lewis doing better than his first year, had 38 tackles and 2 sacks, not bad so far. Ed Reed at 26 tackles and 1 interception. It's better than he was last year, and that is huge. Now we're going to take a look at this. This has been unusual to see this. Sean Taylor's only at 25 tackles. He does not have a sack on his campaign. Not in his first year, not in his second year yet. He does not have no interceptions. I don't even think he had an interception last year. And we faced these guys last year. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, hang on to your seats. It might take Sean Taylor a while to actually get himself going in order to adjust to this game, because I have not made him, or he has not been on Madden since I think probably Madden 06, maybe 07 at the latest. And if I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Somebody could comment on that and let me know when his last Madden was. But with that being said, he has not been on a Redskins roster since the time before his passing. So with that being said, give it some time. If you're a Sean Taylor fan, even if you're a Redskins fan, give it some time for him to adjust. I think he will be a great safety as he progresses. In the Seahawks era, anyways, Brian Bosworth, he claims he was a bust in real life, which I believe. But Brian Bosworth, the virtual character Brian Bosworth, mind you, 32 total solo tackles, 5.5 sacks, as a right outside linebacker. I cannot believe what I'm seeing here. This is his sophomore campaign, guys, and he is doing freaking believable so far, with a team that's not like the Legion of Boom whatsoever. So with that being said, that is huge. So with that being said, we are going to take a look at another weapon that I kind of forgot about, and I apologize if you're a Steelers fan. I did not get to you guys. I am totally sorry about that. But in the Steelers column, in receiving, Juju leads the way at 474 yards and 3 of those things. Lynn Swan is at 394 yards and 3 of those things. So with that being said, that is the stats for right now. With that being said, we are going to move on to injury report, and there's not, like I said, through week 10 there's not a lot of players that are hurt. So the Broncos don't have anybody, the Browns don't have anybody, the Bucks don't have anybody yet. Nobody big so far. Amari Wands is out with a fractured shoulder blade. He's out for 8 weeks, but he's not on IR. The Chiefs have, the Colts have right tackle with a ruptured disc. He's out for 7 weeks. With that being said, the Cowboys don't have anybody. The Finns don't have anybody. Not a lot of players are getting hurt this year. Unlike last year when I looked at this, it was, excuse me. Sorry about that. I had a sneeze and I did not want to sneeze in my microphone. So with that being said, this tight end is out with a knee cartilage tear for 4 weeks. With that being said, the Jets don't have anybody. The Lions don't have anybody. The Packers don't have anybody. So if we take a look at this, Rodney Hudson, dislocated ankle. He's out for 6 weeks. That's going to hurt the Raiders. The Rams, there's John Johnson III being out for a week with a dislocated ankle. That could hurt them in the long run as well. If we look at this, the Saints have a player as well, Von Bell, strong safety, out with an upper arm fracture for 5 weeks. That could possibly hurt the Saints. So with that being said, there is not a lot of players that are getting hurt so far. So with that being said, that is a good thing to see. For now, guys, that is all I'm going to show you. I will, however, get back to gameplay footage, most likely probably in year 3, and I will update you again probably when we get to probably before the last game of the year, before I face the 49ers at home, so you guys can take a look and I can bring you back stats again, let you know who is in the race for MVP, let you know who is where, let you know where everybody else is. But that's it for now, guys. I'm your boy, GamerBoy93, and I will see you all next time. You all stay safe out there, and my upstate New York friends, stay safe tonight. We are getting hit with snow. Stay safe tonight. Guys out in the west, same thing. Stay safe. I know there's a lot of forest fires going on out in California. I know there's a lot of other things going out. And a salute to our veterans today, as this is an important day for them in general. I lost my grandfather in May, so I applaud him for serving in the military, but I have to applaud other family members and friends that are serving or were serving. Thank you for your service so much, and I hope anybody that sees this, pass this along to them that I'm thanking them. But to everybody else, stay safe out there, and I will see you all next time.